Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Marie and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset. All right, welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I am Coach David Syvertsen. I'm here with Marissa Liza, a repeat guest on the Herd Fit Podcast. And last time she was on, we were talking about acupuncture and her practice that she owns in Paramus, New Jersey.
Rochelle Park.
Rochelle Park.
That's
do it.
It's okay.
All right. And she actually just came from work here on a Wednesday afternoon, the day before Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving Eve. You know, I was thinking like probably 20 years ago this time, I was picking out my outfit to go out partying at Joey's in Clifton. Here we are talking on the Herd Fit Podcast.
What time will you be in bed tonight?
You know what? I'm hoping to make it to 9 p.m.
9 p.m. Living large. Living large. All right. Well, the reason today we have Marissa coming on is her and I have a lot in common, all right? And when we get to talk about our lives and businesses and all the ups and downs that surround that, the more and more we talk, the more and more we realize kind of going through the same thing. But we're also HYROX athletes. And
I forgot to wear my patch today.
I know, seriously. I just got done with a HYROX race in Dallas, Texas this past weekend, the weekend before Thanksgiving. And Marissa, you did one where and when?
So mine was the first weekend in October, and I did mine in Toronto, Canada.
Toronto, Canada. Awesome.
So
now, I guess this is as good a platform as any to let everyone know that I'm actually going to retire from CrossFit competing and I'm going all in on HYROX.
So this did not. You know, one of the things you said to me, like the first workout after I came back, you're like, all right, let's see what a HYROX athlete could do. And I'm like, I'm a CrossFit athlete.
There it is. Now, I do want to spend some time. Maybe we could start off talking about this because the gap between HYROX and CrossFit, like anything, it's already turning into who's fitter. And I've actually gotten involved in a couple of those conversations as well. And I want everyone to say, it kind of is the same thing. Like, I don't really view that much of a difference between HYROX and CrossFit from an event test of fitness perspective. The professional sport and what it takes to be a professional high-end elite CrossFit athlete, yes, is a much higher demand than a HYROX athlete, but almost everyone that does these, you're not entering that tier. So I don't think there needs to be a CrossFit versus HYROX, right? There might be some rise in affiliates around the world that are a HYROX affiliate, and then you have your CrossFit affiliates, and then there's these competitions that you do. I mean, whatever. At the end of the day, there are so many similarities between the two because there's a huge aerobic base that is required to perform it at even an average level, and there's a lot of mixed modal work, meaning a lot of different things within one fitness test, and that kind of really does jive with CrossFit. Do you agree, disagree that there is a lot of similarity between the two?
I do think there are a lot of similarities. However, I do think just because what the component of a HYROX is versus CrossFit, you're still going to have a lot of polarization on that.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have the CrossFit, and you know, I think the truth is that sometimes, as much as I believe in CrossFit, we believe in CrossFit, like it's still like, oh, CrossFit?
Yep.
That's a little bit too hard. I don't think I could ever do a CrossFit competition, but I could do a HYROX.
Yep, absolutely.
So, you know, but as somebody who's you and I, we've been around, we can see the similarities in between them.
A lot of carryover. They certainly do feed each other. You can make a case that if you start off your fitness journey in a HYROX world, you will at some point be very ready to at least start your CrossFit journey.
100%.
Vice versa. If you're all CrossFit all the time, then you just want to go start a HYROX journey, whether it's once or twice or forever, you're going to be very ready because of that CrossFit background. So
Yes.
That's where I see the similarities. The biggest difference, so let's talk about what this HYROX race, most of you guys know what it is. It's probably one of the fastest growing fitness trends in the world right now in a trend-based industry. We did do an episode on HYROX when we had Alondra come on. I think it was summer or early fall where she kind of opened up. And Alondra's a member here at CrossFit Bison that has a pretty strong reputation in the sport of HYROX, racing at a very high elite level. And we see that carry over into a lot of the CrossFit programming, some of the workouts that we do here. But without going too deep into it, the HYROX race is you sign up online in a city. They're all over the world throughout the entire year. And you show up, and it's basically you're going to run 1,000 meters 8 times. After every single 1,000 meter run, you go into the floor and you do a different fitness station, just one movement. And I hope I don't get this wrong, but here we go. You got skier, sled push, sled pull, don't quote me on the order, burpee broad jumps, sandbag walking lunges, farmer carries, wall balls. I'm missing one.
Oh, wait. Ski, row.
And row.
Yeah,
Yeah.
row. 1,000 meter.
Of all the things.
I know.
I missed that. That's like my favorite one. So those are the 8 sessions. Now, I don't want to get into too deep about if you really want to look into how much of those things you are doing, go check it out. But basically, you're going to run for anywhere from 3:30 to 6:30, somewhere in that range. And then you're going to arrive at a fitness station that takes you about anywhere from 2 to 5, 6 minutes. And basically, it's just a very long race. And the fastest times in the world are between 55 and 60 minutes. I think I read that the average time is between an hour 20 and hour 40 minutes. And so you're looking at over an hour of work for pretty much everyone. They have singles, basically you do it by yourself. They have doubles, which you run together. You do not split the run, but when you get to these stations, you get to split it however you want. There is some judging. It's not too tight, but it's not terrible. There are people there that are barking out some standard talk, and it is a mass fitness event. Do you know the numbers in Toronto? How many were there approximately?
So Toronto was a 2-day event, and there was 4,000 people each day. There was about 8,000 people over the weekend.
Wow.
And they did the same thing Saturday and Sunday. So they had, a group going Saturday, a group going Sunday. And if I remember correctly, they had just had it as a Saturday, and then I guess they got high demand, and then they opened up Sunday. But now I've been noticing a lot of them are becoming 2-day events because of the registration and number of people.
The numbers are out of control. They're crazy. I was in Dallas this past weekend, and there were 6,500 athletes, and that was just one day.
Wow.
And they told me that they have one coming up in Houston that is 9,000 people. And I think that's going to be like the new PR, you would call it, most amount of people. And it keeps growing and growing and growing. And we'll get into why I think it's going to keep growing. We'll get into, will it keep growing? What is the peak of this? But instead of Marissa and I both just kind of reflecting on our own experiences and giving you all that, I mean, I'm sure we'll have personal stories to share because that probably is like that anecdotal advice that we can give others. We want to kind of reflect on HYROX because even here at Bison, and some of you that are listening that are not from Bison, there is right now, or there will be, some interest in you potentially taking this on as your next fitness test. And whether it's a 5K, whether it's going for a long hike up a big mountain, or a powerlifting meet, or Olympic lifting, or the CrossFit Open, which is coming up, there is a strong desire to test your fitness. And it doesn't necessarily always need to be a competitive environment. It's just an experience. So
and a reason to have. We can say, to train for it, right?
Yep.
To feel inspired, to feel motivated, rather than why am I just going to the gym every day?
Yep.
A goal in mind, whatever that is.
So that's going to lead me right into, I want to ask you, why did you want to try this? Like, what made you look at this, which is a very run-dominant fitness race? I would say 70% running. What made you want to do it?
So initially the way I found out about it was due to the nature of my business. I get all these wellness emails, and it was a list, and it said HYROX Fitness Challenge taking over the United States. So I see Fitness Challenge, and I was like, beep, click on it, HYROX. I remember looking at it, and my initial thought was, I don't think I can do this. And I remember I sent you a text, and I go, do you think I could do it? I said, have you heard of this, and do you think I could do it? And then you're like, yeah, definitely I've heard of it, think you should do it. So it definitely was, I wanted a challenge. I wanted a reason to keep training. I honestly was feeling just a little lost. I didn't want to do a CrossFit competition. My background is I've done all the races. I've done the marathons. I've done the half marathons. This was a perfect mix of the two.
Yeah. So it was a need for stimulation, and you were curious.
Exactly.
Right. And curiosity can lead us down a lot of great paths, especially when it comes to our bodies, our fitness, and even just like the mental components behind training for something.
Yep.
I see it here all the time that a competition comes out or a race like this comes out, and people, in my opinion, will sometimes sign up for them only for the fact that they want something to train for, because they know they respond to that kind of, I would even say, pressure.
Yes.
And the almost like the need to train. It's more like yeah, like I want to be healthy, I want to be fit, like I like my friends at the gym. Sometimes that flame can kind of diminish at some points, but when you have something in the back of your head, and I've talked about this for years, when you put yourself on paper that I am going to do something, it answers a lot of those like questions when you get to the T in the road. Like, should I do it? Should I not? Should I eat healthy? Should I not? Should I go for the extra run? Should I not? Should I stretch or not? It's usually now it's an easy answer.
Yes, definitely. It definitely keeps you motivated, focused, wanting something to get you out of that rut of the everyday. Like, I love working out, but oh man, I'm just going to the gym to, get a workout in. Now it was more something to look forward to.
Did you race with anyone in Toronto?
No.
So it was just you. So you're a brave soul. You are. I've always thought that about you. Like you're just gonna be like, you know what? I'm gonna go freaking do it.
I see it. I'm like, that's it. I just sign up and dive right in.
Fly to another country, by yourself, get a hotel, all that stuff, the financial commitment. And we'll talk about that in a little bit because I know that's something that you guys want to know. Now, I did the doubles division in Dallas, so I think this is going to be a good back and forth as we get deeper into what it was like, because doing it by yourself is without a doubt much more demanding than it is with a partner. And I think everyone should know there's also different levels to this. Not a lot of them. And there's basically what CrossFitters would call scaled and RX.
Yes.
We both did the scaled version of it. We didn't do the heaviest ones.
Correct.
They call it pro. So if you're looking at a registration, if it just says HYROX women or HYROX men, that you're doing it by yourself, but it's the lighter weights. Run is the same for everyone. If you're doing the pro division, you're doing the hardest version of that race. And within that race, they also have individual and partner. Within the partners, you can do same gender or mixed gender. I don't know. I'm a novice to this. I don't know what the logistics are with the weights on the mixed gender division. Do you have any idea what that's like?
I don't.
The sled and the wall balls?
I don't. I remember watching a little bit of it. I think it's got to be the same weight because there's too much going on in there to be switching weights, unless potentially the wall ball, but I can't imagine the sled changing.
Yeah, but like the lunges, the farmer carries, then how do you do a partner farmer carry if there's 4 kettlebells out there?
Yeah, there's no way. So they have to have the same weight.
Probably find some sort of meeting ground with that weight.
Yes.
Now, the actual experience, I want to talk about what it was like leading up to your race, and how long did you what was the gap between you signing up and you actually going to the race? Was it 2 months, 3 months?
It was 3 months.
Okay.
Yes, it was 3 months. And, I'd felt that I had a good background as far as like conditioning.
Yep.
That I could work out for about an hour or a little over an hour. So I felt comfortable with that. I think the biggest thing was I knew I could run for 45 or 50 minutes, but how was I going to feel after lunging, after pulling? How are my hips going to feel? How am I going to be able to continue to run at that point? So I think that was a big part of training and wanting to know, how am I going to feel? That's what made me the most nervous about it.
Same. It's one thing to take on a CrossFit workout that's 15 to 20 minutes that looks really hard. You kind of already know what you're going to feel like.
Yeah.
And it's not going to last that long, because that CrossFit workouts are usually under that. This is an hour plus, maybe even an hour and a half. And it's really hard. I actually think that's kind of what makes it a fitness test from the mental standpoint, is how do you respond to something that's unknown?
Exactly. Because I knew I could keep my heart rate up for an hour and a half, but then to add in the weight component and the station component added a different dynamic to it.
And that muscle fatigue that you just can't anticipate that you get from running and mixed modal work. Did you change your training up a lot, a little, in the middle?
Not so much. I mean, at that point, I really wasn't lifting very heavy at that point. I wasn't coming in and squatting a lot or snatching a lot or cleaning a lot. So I just pretty much kept that the same. I would say, if anything, I tried to do longer workouts with, I would always do like try and run fatigued. I remember going to the track and just doing I would lunge around the track and then run.
Okay.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's a simple way of doing it. It's one thing. We talk about this with lifting at CrossFit all the time. It's like, all right, it's cool that you can lift when you're fresh. Can you lift when you're tired? Same thing. It's cool that you like to run. Can you run when your muscles are fatigued and your heart rate's high? So you kind of just took that on yourself to go to a track and do it here. So would you say, though, did you up the amount of times, or was it more of running per week, or was it a little bit more intentional?
It was more intentional.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't all of a sudden start running like 30 miles a week to
No,
this?
because I didn't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
And I just thought mileage-wise, I think it ends up being just like a little over 4 miles that you're running. So I knew I could do that, but it was like, how am I going to feel? I wanted to run fatigued.
Yeah,
That was
okay.
the big thing.
All right, and once we wrap up this next part, we'll talk about the race itself, and I think that's where we can kind of circle back to, okay, would I have changed something up about my training leading up to? But let's talk about some of these things. I actually would want some people to know if you want to do this, because I want to talk about the broad experience. And again, Marissa and I, we've done one of these. So take some things, what we say, with a grain of salt, but we both did experience it. And I wish I had a few more conversations with others that had done it before, that were able to give me a little more detail into like these little things that I care about. I know some others care about, just all the simple planning. So the week leading up to, so like you're a week away, and the races, you did a Saturday, right?
Yep.
When did you actually get your heat starting time?
So I got that 2 days before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Thursday.
So Thursday.
Well,
So I had planned, get there Friday, which I got there Friday. Saturday, wake up, be done by like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep.
That's it. Go to breakfast, go to brunch, like tour the city. Sunday, come home.
Yep.
So because we didn't get that until later on, come to find out that my heat time was not until later on in the afternoon.
How late?
I started at 4:40.
4:40 p.m. on a Saturday.
So that is 4:40 is when I'm finishing my workday and hopefully in bed in my pajamas by 7:15 at that point.
Unless it's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Sometimes you go to bed.
Totally different story. Yeah. So that was definitely like, well, what am I going to do with myself during the day? But I had to adapt.
Yeah.
I can do.
And I had a similar experience. I actually at least got my heats on a Sunday night, and our heats were 7:40 p.m., my brother and I, and it was a problem. Schedules and logistics. Just we went down there, we visited friends, and we had plans for that Saturday night. Because again, same thing. We just assumed we'd be done at some point, at latest in the afternoon, and I didn't even know that heats went that late. Probably a shortcoming on my own. I probably could have found out a general time where we'd be going, and they do release, hey, these are the orders of the divisions in which you sign up for. Our original sign-up was Men Pro, so individual Men Pro, the heaviest weights, the hardest race there for men, and that is out there in the public space. And if you're listening to this now, just know you're going to be one of the last heats to go if you're in that division. So if you want to go individual by yourself in the hardest kind, doubles or open, you are going to go probably really late afternoon or at night. So if that kind of deters you and you want to go to a different division, that would be useful for you to know. But my brother and I, with our travel schedule and the plans that we had to jump through a few hoops, had multiple balls in the air for about 3-4 days. We ended up buying a ticket from someone in the men's doubles division. That was 11:40 in the morning, but I didn't even confirm that was a done deal until the Thursday before. And I still showed up because I'm reading on Reddit, online, are you even allowed to buy someone else's ticket and have the name changed? And shout out to my phone's recording us right now, but I want to get the name. I a rep from HYROX. I got to message her on Instagram. I got her name from Alondra. She was so helpful.
That's great.
Like, she was unbelievably helpful. So that's a big deal. When these things get really big, you need to have staff that are very good at communicating with others, because you probably get bombarded with just complaints and changes and injuries and this and that. She was outstanding, and that made me kind of even raise the level of HYROX in my eyes even a bit. Did you have any experiences with staff members that you needed help with or anything like that?
I didn't have any. Nothing came up like that. The only thing from what happened was I didn't know that they had originally on the website, it said that the race was 75 wall balls. And apparently they made a change this year that they switched it to 100.
Shit.
Which I didn't know. And I was like, I saw something on Instagram and it's like 100. And I'm like, and I made a comment like, is this true? And somebody's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, at that point, what's another 25 wall balls?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But still, I would have liked to have known that was a change that didn't work. But I didn't have any, conversations with any of them staff. So
yeah, I just, and like even the help desk out there, because I've run a much smaller competition here at Bison, it can get overwhelming with the amount of needs that people have. And I just felt like everyone I talked to, whether it was online, email, or live at the event, very kind, nice, patient, and good communicators.
That's good.
So that's a big deal in terms of their growth for the future. Why did you do individual? Like, did you just want this to be like, hey, this is a Marissa thing. This is a me thing. I don't even want to see if anyone else wants to do it.
Is this a therapy session? This is the story of my life. Just kidding. No. I honestly didn't even think about asking anyone.
Okay.
I just thought like, hey, cool. Like, this is something I can do. I'm sort of used to doing everything on my own.
Yeah.
So why not?
I mean, that's why you're successful. That's a big reason why you're successful.
I wish now, though, like, again, I know we'll get to this, but if I do it again, I want to do it with a partner.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that the reason why I asked you that is one of the main points I want to get out to everyone here, that if this is something that interests you, but you're not sure about the physical demand, it does make sense to do this as a team at first. And then if you love it, you crush it, you feel great, you felt safe. All right, maybe the next time you go down the individual path, because when you do the team, you're running the full thing.
Yes.
So you're running 8K no matter what, whether you're individual or team, you have to run together. But then you do get to split some of the work. So I think that really does introduce you to the run capacity, especially those that are not big runners. Like some of you might not even know if you can do that, run that much running. That will show you, but you won't get buried once you're on the floor having to do everything by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And I think I honestly think it would just be a much more fun experience.
Yes.
You know, working out with a partner, working out with a friend, you're pushing each other, you're laughing, you're joking around, still in that competitive environment. I think it makes it a lot better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, we get asked that all the time here with CrossFit competitions. What should I do? Should I do partner or individual? And my line is exactly that. Partner is a little bit more like about you, your zone, your fitness test, your result, good and bad. And you get to control more because it's just you. When you're in a partner, you lose some control, but it's definitely more fun.
Yeah.
It's definitely more fun to take it on with someone.
Yeah.
So what was the vibe? Speaking of fun, what was the vibe like there?
I thought it was great. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. So we, got up to the convention center in the Uber. I see this giant line outside the convention center. I'm like, I already freak out because I have to be there like an hour and a half early. I'm like, that's it. I'm going to be late. Turns out it was for another event. There was like a sneaker event going on. So at first I thought like, oh, this is so poorly organized because there's all these people waiting outside. But come inside, very well marked, athlete check-in, athlete here. This is where the spectators go. So it was and it just felt good. There was tons of people around, tons of athletes around, warming up. Like, I love that environment. So I just got super excited about it.
Yep.
And they do it at such a big place that you never felt like it was overcrowded. I mean, there was a lot of people, but plenty of room to sit, plenty of room to put your bag down. The line moved quickly, lots of people checking you in, guiding you where to go. I thought it was exceptional.
Did you check a bag?
I did not.
Okay,
No,
so
I
we
did not
did.
check. Okay.
So it was actually very useful because like we had a couple of friends come and watch and support us, but they weren't there as we were like starting to warm up. So we gave our bag to them, and they have a really good, clean, clear system of wallet, phone, other clothes that you want to change into, and that's a big use. But I agree, very well marked, and I love the aesthetics of everything.
Yes.
Just the color combinations, and then again, there's a buzz, and like that buzz is really hard to fake. And like sometimes it's in a local gym, like we get it here during the open sometimes at CrossFit competitions. Like you go in there and like you start almost going numb for a little bit, and then you start warming up. What was the warm up area like?
I thought the warm up area was great. It was lots of machines. There was about 4 bikes. There was ski. There was a sled. I mean, it was crowded, but everybody did a really good job of saying, you know what, like, my heat's not until an hour and a half, so I don't need to be here right now. I thought it was great. They had a lot of warm-up area. I thought it was great they put your number on your arm, so nobody could get away with getting into another heat if it wasn't your heat, because I thought about that, and I'm like, that's not going to happen. So that was all, correlated. They did, I'm sure they had it by you, but they had a screen that had everybody's names on there.
Yeah.
That adds to the experience. You want to go and say, look, there's my name.
Yep,
up on the
like a
board.
big deal.
You feel like you can't wait to go find your name and
Right.
take a picture next to it.
Yeah.
That is something that they're able to tap into that mental aspect of being an inclusive environment.
Yeah, you feel special.
You feel special.
Even during the race, and I couldn't find the flow. There was one monitor that every time I turned it, you could see the monitor, and there were a few times my brother and I, our names were at the top of the list. I'm like, is anyone in first place for our heat? And like, I'm just competitive to a fault.
No.
But then I just convinced myself that it was. So I'm like, Mike, let's go. Come on, I'm gonna keep going. And then for the last like 30 minutes, like I didn't see it once. I'm like, crap, I think we're falling back. But I guess it's not. That's just, I don't even know what it is.
So your name comes up on the board, just
A TV screen.
Yeah, which I think we should talk about when we talk about like the form, because it'll give a better understanding.
You might have a stronger understanding of what that is, because I have no idea what that monitor was.
So that monitor was telling you where you were in the race.
Okay.
And if you looked, it would say like, what station you had to go to and how many more laps you had to do on the run.
Okay, cool.
Not first place.
Sweet. Yeah, my brother could have used that. He almost got us lost on one of the on one of the things. That's a part of the race as well. So we're almost there. So you know what? Now the next one is the race itself.
Yeah. So
let's do this. Let's go right into the race itself. I want you to talk about that little hype room right before.
Okay. Yeah. So just so everybody knows, like you're running around, there's basically, they set up like a track. So you're around where you do all your runs. And then you come into what's called the rock zone, which is where all the stations are. So you're always coming in and out. And you always come in one part and out the other part.
Yep.
Before the race starts, they line you up. You are taken into this covered area with athletes that you'll be in your heat. And there is someone there that is hyping you up, getting you really excited, asking you if you've done a race before, asking you if you're excited. There is a countdown screen on the top there. And he or she, there was a she at my race, in a circle, has you do some breathing exercises, helps you envision having a great race, and you are just so pumped up before you go. And again, great job by HYROX saying, we want to tap into this. We're getting that mental part for the athlete. Whether somebody was going to go out and do it in an hour or 3 hours, everybody had that experience, and it made you feel phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like,
it's really hard not to sprint the first 200 meters if you're just so jazzed.
So it's like she's up there and there's like the screen, like 3, 2, 1, and boom. And you're coming out of the chute.
Yeah.
Like you're coming out like a pro athlete.
Yeah, right.
And everybody got to experience that.
Yep, everyone does. And you join this track. Like if you want like a visual, I know you guys can find it online, but it's like a football field, like a track around a football field. And you're running around the track, and then you go onto the football field, and there's different zones in that within that football field that you have to go to. But when you start, you're there. We had 80 people in our starting heat, and you're joining hundreds of people that are currently on the floor. So it does get a little bunched up a few different times on the runs.
Yes.
I experienced a few runs where you really couldn't get by anyone for a while. It was really hard to weave in and out. Not that it mattered that much. You said you didn't have that many issues with that?
I didn't have that many issues. Didn't really feel it was crowded. I will say by my competitive nature, like I wanted to try and keep up with people in my heat where I was.
Yeah.
And you just get lost. So, I was kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Whoever I was next to, I was kind of like, I'm going to try and beat this person.
That's smart. That's smart.
You lose the people that you start with.
My brother and I did not go into it with like a competitive goal. We had like, hey, we want to break X time, right? And he got really into like the percentiles, like, hey, we ranked 25th percentile. That's pretty good, blah, 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 blah. But one thing I loved about the competitive side to it, I actually had probably like a 5 to 10 minute, like, ooh, this is that feeling is coming in, even though I told myself it was not.
It's just for fun.
It's just for fun. Like then you throw an elbow to someone's rib cage because they're ahead of you. But anyway, I didn't do that. You go to after your first run, you go to the skier. That's the first station. Because it's the first station, you go there and it's completely empty because the heat that was previously in front of you, 10 minutes, and the heat behind you, who hasn't even started yet, they're either gone or haven't gotten there yet. So you get there and there's probably, 80 skiers available, and they tell you, like, come on down, all the way down, all the way down. You got people helping you out there. And there was only 2 other teams on the skiers when we started. 2, I think it was 2. So that right there tells you, like, oh, wow, we came in 3rd place on that run. And then you start getting after the ski. You're looking at their pace. You're looking at their pace. And you go, We do another run. We get to the sleds. There's 2 stations of sleds, sled push, sled pull. After the sled pull, we were the first ones onto that 4th run. And, like, immediately it just had that feeling of, like, all right, you know exactly where you stand competitively. And then we got passed from there multiple times from there on out.
Okay.
But I liked that element to it. Even though I wasn't competing, it gave you a little extra, like, motivation and excitement that when
Yes.
you got to a station, like, were those people there yet? Because you lose them on the
You
runs.
lose them, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice. And again, they do a great job. You're not waiting for a station. You're constantly moving. There's plenty of equipment there. It is you're moving. You're not none of that stuff is holding you back.
I asked that to you multiple times.
Yeah.
I asked that to Alondra. I was like, what happens if you get there and there's like not kettlebells available? And like just at both times, like Shrug, it's not even close.
Yeah, not even close.
Like they have a very mathematics, scientific way of when they send heats out, how many people are going, the average. Like we do that on a smaller scale here at Bison, and what they do is a really impressive job of, hey, when you get to a station, you will be working because of X, Y, Z.
Yes.
So that's probably part of what makes it a very costly operation. Now, what was the station? Were there any stations for you individually that you were just like that wasn't enough, or it's like, man, that was too much? Like, were there any ones that really stand out in your mind that just like stood out, good or bad?
Yeah. So actually, funny story. The because when I initially looked at the site, everything's in kilograms and meters. So I'm like, asking Alexa, like, how long is this? And then doing it in the gym, not really sure.
Yeah.
And they didn't actually tell you how many times you had to push and pull the sled back and forth.
Same.
So they did not review that with you. So on the sled pull, which was my hardest, and again, there's people there watching you. You're not necessarily having an individual judge at that point, counting how many times you go back and forth.
Yep.
So fast forward, we finish, and I look at my results like later on, and I'm comparing myself to where I was. And I was like, wow, I came in first place in sled pull. Well, it's because I missed 2.
Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. Sam, delete that part.
I was like, wow, I did really good. Oh yeah, I only went
Back once, okay.
I only went down and back once.
Yep.
I was not trying to cheat. It just was in my head. I'm like, oh, this has got to be it. And that was really the hardest part, though, for me.
That's an interesting. Yeah, I want to talk about some of the hard concentration parts as well. But that is, I wonder if that is different when they are competing at like the higher level. Like if there's a pro division, because I know there's like a qualification process to reach the worlds, right? Like where I wonder if in those divisions you would have your own judge at every station no matter what, because that does not show up as a penalty. We have time chips. So basically, if you skip a lap, which is possible that you accidentally skip a lap, you will get penalized because your chip can tell that you did not run the full length.
Yes.
And they slam you, I think, with a penalty.
And that's why what you were talking about earlier with the screen.
Yeah.
So the screen up there, and it's hard because the names are changing quickly. You're running. So you do actually have to do a lot. I found mentally to make sure that like, okay, how many times am I running? And I will say at the beginning, they do a good, the height person also says, remember, you're going to pass it twice. On the third time is when you go in. And I just had that in my head about that. But they do have the screen up there telling you how many laps you have and then what station you should go to next. But I did find that very hard to follow.
Yeah, there was a couple like I'm like trying to do math on the fly. I look at my splits on the clock. I'm like, wait, there's no way no, it's just really hard to do. And if you want kind of like I wish someone had told me this prior to, like a better explanation of what these runs and when you go in, when you go out. If you want to look at the entrance and exit from the front, all right, let's say you just go to the edge of the building and you're looking at where people are going into the workout floor and you're looking at where people are coming out. You're always going to go in under yellow for us and coming out under the black, okay? The yellow is on the right. The black is on the left. Again, if you're looking at it from the front, all right, where people are actually going in. And in most cases, after you go through that yellow gate, if you want to call it, that in gate, you're turning left and kind of going back to the floor, almost like the opposite direction of where you were running to find your zone. It's all labeled, but you got to know what I just finished 5, I'm on 6. I just finished 6, I'm on 7. You have to do that. When you go out of black, all right, so now you're back on the track, you're passing that yellow tent that yellow entrance right away. That's number one.
Yes.
And then you pass it a second time. And then as you're about to pass it a third time, that's when you go in. And my brother and I did have a brother fight in the middle of the race. So he's saying that's 3. I'm like, no, that was only 2. And like he was pretty adamant that it was 3. We keep running. And then for the next 1.5 minutes, I'm running behind him. And he keeps on kind of looking at me. And I'm like, crap, I think I just blew it. Like, I think maybe we are on our 4th lap. And it ended up not being the case. But
you were right.
We were right.
Okay.
But that it is confusing. I think going into the race, I would tell anyone that's doing this, start playing around with how you're mentally going to do that. Like, people lose track of their counting here at Bison all the time.
Yes. And you think it's going to be easy.
Yes.
I thought it too. It's like,
your mind's all over the place.
But I really had to think about it.
Yeah.
Like each time I was like 1,
Yep.
2, go in, go to station 5, go to station 6.
Yes.
So
did
that
you
is
say it out
something-
loud?
I did.
That's like my biggest go-to.
Yeah. I had to
Is
say
when
it
you
out loud.
pass it, say it out loud.
Yep.
Like here at the gym, I did it on Monday's night workout. I said out loud what round I finished. And the memory, the way it works, I think that's a big deal. That's a piece of advice I would give you.
And I also wrote down, I did it on my hand. Like I wrote what the stations were.
After Alondra, yeah. Alondra tip right there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So the anything else on the race itself? Here's a question. There is water and I think Gatorade or Powerade, whatever it is, it's available before you start running again every time if you want it.
Yes.
You know, you do get out of your way a little bit sometimes and it does slow you down. Did you eat, drink anything during the race?
I did. So I did had one like of those goo packs, and then I had a couple of these like shot blocks or whatever, just simple carbs.
So where did you hold it during the race?
I just stuck it in my pants.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're not allowed to, nobody's allowed to give you anything, so you can't have any of your spectators giving you anything.
Okay.
I will say, just as a advice for anyone that is going to do one, is it's easy when you're in the zone, in the rock zone, when you come out of the stations where the water stations are before you go out to run. That's where it's easy to be like, oh, I can take a little time. I can walk a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, let me take my time before I get out there. Now, of course, by all means, if you need time to rest, go out there. But that's where it's easy to be like, where 30 seconds can easily turn into a minute.
Absolutely.
So that was sort of like, I remember when I used to do a lot of races, so my plan was I would run to the water station out of the zone, drink my water as I was like walking towards the door.
Yeah.
Typically there's a garbage can there, which there was, and then start my run.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's like, let me stop at the table, take a little, and that, that can add time. Again, if you have a time goal in mind. If you don't care, who cares?
If you have a performance goal, that I would try to tell you either do what Marissa did, put something in your pants or your sports bra or something in your shirt and just have like a quick gel thing, or just don't do anything. Like I don't know how much a water or sip of Powerade is really going to help you out, and it does turn into a long rest.
I do think you need something though.
Yeah.
I do think you need to take something.
Yeah.
I personally just feel like you're depleting so many carbs at that point.
The preference would be something that you have on you.
Yeah, something to have on to quickly have something and not do, unless you're doing it an hour. And I guess maybe not, but.
The fatigue that built up, what was the number one fatigue for you? Was it mental? Was it breathing? Was it muscles? And specifically where?
I think for me, it was not breathing. During my run, I was more focused on maintaining a heart rate that I knew I can maintain, like zone 3 for me.
Okay.
That's one thing I did focus on while I was training. But it was the muscle fatigue.
Yep.
It was the muscle fatigue for sure. Legs.
Legs.
It was my legs and my hips.
Yep.
That was a big thing. And again, could I have built more strength? Would that have made it better? I don't know. I think it was balancing that fine line of not building too much muscle. Not that I was going to put on that much muscle at this point, but you know what I mean? Like in that training time.
Yep.
But I think that's probably something I would have done a little bit better, is maybe up those weights a little bit, because you don't realize in the row you're getting fatigued.
Yeah.
The lunging is a lot.
Lunging was.
The burpees are a lot, and that was a lot hip and quad dominant.
Yep.
That even though it's heart rate, it's still they're still using that.
Yeah, you're jumping off the front of half of your foot. In a broad jump, you're stopping with all like knees and quads there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I agree. Like my hips, low back, and just lower body in general really just started to like kind of flame out towards the end, to the point where I actually noticed on one of the last runs, I'm like, I notice this a lot with myself running. I'm not breathing that heavy. I just can't open it up.
I just can't go.
I just can't move my
Yes.
legs fast enough. I can't open up my stride. So
And one thing I was always hoping, I wanted to not get to the wall balls and be totally depleted.
yeah, those are staring you in the face the whole time.
Yeah, so you're just, you have 100 wall balls coming at you, and in the open division, the wall ball is only 10 pounds. So I sort of was like, oh, it's only 10 pounds. I can do this, and I trained with a heavier wall ball. But still, it was still a lot of muscle fatigue at that point.
I want to touch on the spectator experience because I think this is actually something that people should know that have an interest in doing one. And if you have some friends and family that want to watch, or you're going to go watch some friends and family, or you're even going to go do it in the morning and watch in the afternoon, I thought the spectator experience was very friendly.
Excellent.
Like just, I've been to CrossFit competitions over the past, and like you do it to go support people. So it's not about you when you're spectating. But I will say spectating is rough sometimes. Like you could be there for 8-9 hours straight and you're watching people work out for 8 minutes and they disappear for 3 hours. And this is, I go watch someone, I want to watch someone, they're done in basically an hour 15, an hour 45, I say somewhere in that gap. And it's very well marked. You're constantly going to a new station, waiting for them to circle back from the run. You can watch them on the run if you want, give them some support. And then they're there. Like it's almost like every 5 to 6, 7, 8 minutes, they're doing something different that you can support them on. And then you're in and out, if you need it to be, pretty quickly.
Yes, it's a great spectator experience. They also had people monitoring if you had to leave the convention center. There was somebody there like saying, hey, now it's time to cross, because you essentially would be crossing where the runners are.
Yeah.
But they did a great job of that. And again, kudos to them for having it designed that way.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
thinking that and saying, hey, how are we, again, because you know what, when you're out there, you want somebody being like, hey, great job, have a sign, have
Absolutely.
this, like
Yep.
that's just going to add more to the experience and touching that mental side of why somebody would want to do this.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Ryan and Nicole Ratcliffe, former members at Bison, and Karam was down there. Like we've all experienced this. When you hear that familiar voice, just saying like "good job," like it's a huge help.
Yes,
Because it is such a mental grind, that whole thing. And I actually give you credit that you didn't have us up there cheering you on. I bet you'd be like 15 minutes faster if you had us yelling at you mid workout.
well, I had you in my head when I told you that I was under wall balls. You're like, better go unbroken. I was like, okay.
That sounds like a Dave line. What a douchebag.
But also too, in the middle, I don't know if they had this on your event. Like they had food. There was like a food area where you can get drinks and food, and like a shop set up where you can get gear.
Yep.
So again, that was great. On
Was
their
that
part.
inside the thing?
That was
Inside the actual floor that people
Yeah.
were, oh really? Ours
Yeah.
was like in the hallway.
Yeah, no, mine was
That's
inside,
cool.
and then they also had like bleachers set up
Oh, what?
that where you could watch the last the wall balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which was really cool.
I bet little things like that might change based on where they're doing them. Like some of the places are just a little bit bigger than others, I bet. So like ours, a lot of that stuff was outside in the hallway. So it made it a little bit more like traffic in and out. But you find a way. There, I would say we did notice, I was like, man, I wish there was a different way to get out of the building. Like if I was spectating and I waited on a long line, it could have taken a half hour to get out.
Yeah.
Because they only go in so many times at once, and there's like 100 people that want to get out at once, and let's say they're doing 15 to 20 at a time every 2-3 minutes. Like you could have waited for a half hour, maybe even an hour to get out if you played by the rule.
Yeah.
Or you could have snuck out. But I don't know anyone that did that. But looking forward to Marissa, here's the number one question, because I've gotten asked this a few times already. Would you do it again?
Absolutely. Hands down.
No question.
No question.
So that
Do
means
another
you're
one.
going to do it again.
I will do another one.
Will
Yes.
you do one? What I like about this too is like you can make a trip out of this. Go see a new city you've never seen, international or domestic. If there's one in New York, it has not been released yet. There was one last year. I'm assuming there will be another one at some point, spring, summer. Is that the one that you would want to do because you probably would have a bigger cohort from here? Or is it something that you really kind of want to make a trip out of?
That's a really good question. I think I like to travel and do these
Yeah,
things. I think
yeah.
it's just a cool way to experience a city and
Yep.
get some, do it. So I would probably look to go to another foreign city and do it.
Okay, foreign city,
But
not even domestic.
I would like to do, but it is nice to be close to home.
Yeah.
There is an advantage to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you can only do one again. You could do multiple. Like this could be a nice. I'm actually already thinking about a couple of my friends outside of CrossFit, outside of Bison, that it would be fun to maybe meet up in a different city every year.
Yes, it would
And
be
just
fun.
like-
I just met somebody recently that they travel like 6 or 8 of them.
Okay.
They do them as
Oh, that's
partners
awesome.
and they go different places. Like, I think that's really cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
There's
And
some crazy people out there that do like the partners in the morning and the individual at night. Get out of here.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Try hards. Not just kidding. It's like those people that work out twice in a day. This is losers. But anyway,
I don't know any of those
no,
people.
no. Who do you think? And be honest about this. Don't give me a PG answer.
I won't.
Who should do this and who should not do this? Let's be positive first. Who should do this?
I mean, I really think everyone could do one.
Yeah,
I really do.
I agree.
I can't say that there's, unless you really hate running,
Yeah,
don't do it.
yeah.
If you don't like running, don't do it. But because of the no time limit,
Yep.
that's a big thing.
Yep.
Anyone can do one.
Agreed. And I mean, there's, just so you guys know, there's people that walk their run. Like,
I found that very annoying.
I did too, but they're all like they do. Most of them say to the outside, you don't have to go out there and run fast, and you don't even have to go run. You should run most of it, but if you really need to walk a lap, you're not like going to be disqualified or penalized.
I know.
We'll just talk about you on a podcast a few months later.
I don't want to get controversial on the podcast, but like, I get a little annoyed because I'm like, all right, come on, like,
Yeah.
to put a little effort in.
Yeah.
Like, I know everybody wants to sort of like, I did it thing.
Yep. Yep.
But that being said,
That's not really pushing yourself. And
that's not really pushing. But
and that's not the point of this.
I know, but that's also why they're getting 8,000 people in a day sometimes.
Okay.
So,
Good point. Low entry point.
you know, so that's part of the inclusive.
Yeah.
You don't really can't train that hard. You can still finish this. You can still have your name on the board. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So
I agree with you.
You know,
That's a good fair point. Fair point.
but I do think anyone, I honestly think, and maybe I'm just saying this because I'm in that demographic, but like I was a hardcore CrossFit athlete for many years,
Yep.
not love CrossFit, but
Mhm.
this was a perfect way to have that competitive
Yeah.
side, but not feel like I'm beating myself up
That's a great
in
point.
CrossFit.
I will say, as a CrossFit owner and CrossFit competitor, getting back into it now that December's here, it is a much safer way to put yourself in a competitive environment. I just got done talking to Bobby about it. A buddy of mine, he's been working out here at Open Gym lately. If you have a desire to compete and you have some mobility restrictions or some previous injuries, like CrossFit could lead you down a pretty dark path.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel that way about HYROX at all unless those issues pop up with running.
Yes.
Like you can't not run and go do this.
Yes.
It's just not going to work.
It's not going to work.
And if you get hurt when you run, then I think we have to have a conversation. But you're not snatching. You're squatting a little bit, but it's a very light squat. You're not walking on your hands. You're not doing anything above your head, like holding weight. So you can. It's a safer approach to putting yourself in a competitive environment than CrossFit. Absolutely.
Yes. But I said to you, I'll say this, like, because I love CrossFit, like, the best shape I was in, even though I worked out did HYROX at whatever time, was nothing like being a CrossFit shape.
Oh, yeah. No. There's no question about the fittest you ever will be if you're on a pretty lengthy, extensive, quality, and dedicated CrossFit program.
Mm-hmm.
The debate that Sam and I talk about all the time on the podcast and in private conversations with a lot of people is the risk-reward factor.
Yes.
It's like, hey, if you are going to achieve that high level of fitness, there might be, not definitely, there might be some negatives that come from it. But do you feel, I mean, I think you already answered this, but I want you to reflect a little bit more on the fact that you've done CrossFit. Hey, I'm trying to sell CrossFit. That is really the reason, maybe 90% of the reason why you really could get through this at a pretty decent rate.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because of the CrossFit background. Because
Mentally
of that.
too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The mental part, the knowing that, like, I can handle this amount of volume.
Yep.
Like, if
Good point.
anybody had not done CrossFit before, you'd be like, oh my goodness, I have to do this you're doing a lot of lunging, the farmer's carry is long, even 1,000-meter row.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And ski.
And
Yeah.
ski.
Yeah, those are.
So that definitely, the CrossFit background prepares you for that, for sure.
Yeah, like any like negative emotions are like, oh man, this is getting nasty. Like I felt that a million times over the years where it's like, I know I'm going to get through it. Where someone does not put them through the blender on some workouts, they might really struggle with this because it's the first time they've really physically felt like this before. And they like think, are things going to start shutting down on me? That kind of stuff.
This is a long time, but yeah.
Do you think there's a personality type or something physical of why someone should not do this? Other than I hate running. If you hate running, then obviously don't do this.
Listen, there's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot going on when you're there. If you're not somebody that enjoys that type of environment with being around multiple people and that whole scene, it's
a good point.
There's
a lot going on.
That could be. There's a lot going on. I mean, there's music blaring in there. You got people waiting online to do this. Who wants to get on this machine to warm up? Again, there's adequate space for it, but there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So if that's not your thing, then it's and you're out there. There's no really hiding in there. It's not like you're just going off into the corner. You're out there. There's people cheering you on whether you like it or not.
Ability to concentrate on a couple of different things at once is something that I think could limit someone's experience. Like if you have a hard time counting laps, like kidding aside, like counting laps and keeping track of what station you're just on, but also keeping track of your breathing and your quality of movement for the sake of safety. Like if you feel that is you, this might not be the greatest experience for you. Or I would really encourage the partner version first. So you're not out there by yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Physically, the mobility demands are not crazy. But there are wall balls at the end. So you really have to be able to know that you can squat pretty high volume while your legs are going to feel the worst.
Yes.
That's something that you should put some thought into. And now that HYROX is getting a little bit more mainstream, the fact that some people are not hitting standards is now Hiller just did a video. Hiller's has made a reputation on YouTube for crushing people for no reps and videos in the competitive sport and how bad that looks if you're not squatting below parallel. Love him or hate him, he's made a pretty big name for himself in that regard. And now he's entering the HYROX world where you have people not even half squatting, doing wall balls and getting credit for it. And now that you're going to have a little bit some more eyes on you, if you're someone that does not have the mobility to squat, or you're someone that really kind of skates by on standards a lot, there's going to be more and more eyes looking for that now. And I do think this is not just exclusive to HYROX, you need to try and train yourself to move with really high quality, A, for yourself, but B, there's going to be more eyes on you now.
Yeah, I didn't even know he started looking at that. I know that you do have a judge. That's the one time you do have your own personal judge at the wall ball station. That's counting you. I mean, I would never get no rep.
No, yeah, you don't even know how to no rep.
No, I'm just kidding. But I don't know how that was if they were no repping anyone or saying anything. I mean, I did have somebody say something to me on one of the burpees, like, "Hey, watch your hands."
Yep, same here.
So
same here. Yep.
that was good.
Yep,
there was
definitely.
Standards there.
Last thing, what would you have done differently? / what do you wish someone had told you prior to the race that you did not know? If there was just one thing.
I would say to run more fatigued.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
run more fatigued.
So do stuff in the gym and then go run.
Yes.
And
do stuff in the
train that.
Yes.
Mentally prepare for that.
Yes.
Okay.
And not in a 20-minute AMRAP, in a 40-minute AMRAP, in a 45-minute AMRAP.
Yep.
Like that was I would have done a little more longer training periods rather than just doing them shorter.
Yeah. That, and I remember you coming back saying you wish you had trained the strength a little bit more with like the sled.
Yeah.
Like I wish I went in feeling stronger for that movement.
I felt like that
even though you skipped one, but so would that be something like if you do it again, will you try to train that a little bit more?
Yeah.
The sled?
I'll try to get a little bit stronger on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I would have done again, this is really hard. Training for these things is hard for this reason alone. I would have tried to work out in more like hour to maybe even 2 hour time periods, like 2 hours straight of not HYROX, but like example, like row for 10 minutes, go run for 5 minutes, ski for 10 minutes, go run for another 5 minutes, and just building up that capacity, run capacity, fatigued, muscle capacity for working that long. But also maybe start experimenting with fueling mid-workout. Like, what does that feel like? Like, I wish I could have run more. I was always afraid to do too much because, again, I didn't want to tweak anything and go down there in one piece, multiple pieces. But if you really want to get to your peak in this thing, if that's something you're going to have to train in that 1.5 hour to 2 hour window, you have to work for longer than what the race would be. Example, if Marissa was like, I want to get better at 10-minute AMRAPs, I would do a lot of different things, but it would be a lot of 15 to 20 minute working periods. So that 10 minutes no longer seems overwhelming. My brother and I were hour 13, like by 50 minutes, I was like, other than Murph, I never do this ever. So that's something I would put a little more effort into.
Yeah. But again, I think, I know you're probably going to close this out soon, but like, I can't recommend this race enough.
Yeah. Yep.
You can't recommend it enough for anyone, whether you're doing CrossFit, whether you're just going to a regular gym, whether you're doing any of the other training programs out there. If you're looking for something that is a competitive, fun goal to have, I think it's a great experience.
Completely agree. And this come from the CrossFitter, and like I opened it up. I don't think there's a CrossFit HYROX fracture. If there is one, other than just joking around as who's fitter, what's harder, they really are each other.
Yes.
Like I really feel like CrossFit is HYROX and HYROX is CrossFit, and that's why, I could see them partnering up at some point. But I agree. I would recommend it anyone, especially if you're someone that wants, like what Marissa said, I just want something in my sight to put my eyes on so that I can have some extra motivation and drive, because that dopamine rush that you get from finishing the race, it is such a good feeling to know that you put yourself through a process to get that done. You accomplish, and like it is hard to do. There's different levels, but like you put a lot of work in over the years.
Yes.
To be able to do something like that. And I want everyone. That's why I lean into competition. It's not just because I like to compete. I know the feeling you get from it. And it can just bring you to a new level of confidence, and it can actually bleed into other areas of your life.
Definitely. Because I feel like I remember saying this to you one time, when I'm training for something, every other part of my life is better.
All encompassing.
It all works. This is what I got to do. So you just, so I definitely, if you need a push, if you need something to just like, hey, want to find inspiration again?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Great thing to do.
Great. So. All right. Well, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode on HYROX. We both fully endorse it. If you're kind of on the fence, go check out the website and just see where the next race is, or they sell out, by the way. So if you're going to do it, commit to that right now, and then look for what race you want to go do. If you wait and be like, maybe a week or two before I'll try, there is a secondary market. I wouldn't trust it. I got a little lucky, and I was nervous about it as well. Go sign up for one the second you're allowed to. So make the decision now, and hopefully we'll be there supporting you guys. If you let us know, if you do sign up, let both of us know, and we'll have more conversations about it.
Sure.
All right. Thanks you guys.
For having me.
Thank you, Marissa.
Thank you. All right. See ya.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the HYROX podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.